What's up, LEGO builders? Today I'm building an epic battle scene between a rampaging mech and HADF soldiers encased in brand new power armor. They're fighting on one of the plateaus in my LEGO city called the Power District, and it currently looks like it just went 5 rounds with that destructive little cousin who always manages to sneak in your room. So I need to start by rebuilding it. I figured, what better way to motivate myself to work on the city than by making a battle scene? If you're intrigued, don't forget to open fire on that like button, and let's get building. Having just touched down on Millennia Prime, these super soldiers are ready to defend the Power District. Oh, wait, it's already been destroyed. This plateau has slowly been broken more and more as the rest of the city has been built, but it's about to be the stage for a major HADF mech battle, so it's time to finish building it. This video was actually supposed to drop last week, but I used up pretty much all my gray tile building stuff, so I had to wait until these packages came in. This lime green suitcase was not exactly what I thought it would be. I was hoping for more of a briefcase vibe, but I guess I can throw it in the background of the city somewhere. I've started stocking up on lime green plant pieces to build a new species of plant life that have apparently developed an appetite for flesh. Not great news for the HAEF scientists and soldiers, but so far they seem to be unique to only one location. I've seen a lot of people expressing surprise that I'm still in need of light bluish gray tile after the ocean of light bluish gray parts I had to buy for Coruscant years ago. And I would agree with you, I'm surprised as well, but here we are. I did buy over 200 dark bluish gray 2x4 bricks to continue to stockpile for all the roads. And more exciting news, I bought more minifig parts for Halo figs. I'm not sure what minifig these legs work well for, but I just really liked how they look. This suit torso and stormtrooper armor legs combined to create a sweet body for this ODST Helljumper. This guy looks so cool. I wish so bad LEGO would give us some Halo sets. I spent way too much on this olive green helmet for it to look this underwhelming. Let me know in the comments what you would do with it. The main reason this plateau is in such rough shape is because it hasn't been tiled off. That layer of light bluish gray plate and tile is what holds everything together and keeps the whole thing from completely breaking apart, which unfortunately has happened before. That's also why I need to transport it around via table. So first things first, I need to remove all the builds and loose brick in order to get that floor installed and strengthen the foundation. I stole some of the overhang plates for other projects, so those are going back in as well, and it'll be really nice to get this thing finished, partly just so that I stop stealing pieces from it. The two main structures on this plateau are massive round silos, and since I'm running low on tile and wanting to be efficient here, I marked out where they would go beforehand, and I'm leaving as much of the filler plate exposed in those areas as possible, since there's no point in tiling ground that's just going to be covered up. Now you can see why I put this off for so long. This is a very time and tile consuming process, even with those large 6x6 tiles, but the city has to be finished at some point, and this will lay the groundwork for more fun building. And speaking of that, I'm pretty pleased with how the silos turned out. I knew from the beginning I wanted to design something round, because I love working non-square and rectangular builds into my LEGO MOCs when possible, and that's the shape silos take. I constructed the first one using a series of long panels connected together via mixel joints. This allowed me to bend each panel at an angle, creating a mostly round shape. These are full of water used to generate power for the city, which is going to be a real problem soon because the second silo has a massive hole in the side. I used a series of wedge plates to create a jagged break in the wall across 6 different panels, which was a really fun and satisfying challenge. It gives the feeling that something massive took a chunk out of the wall as it crashed through. This is silo 11, designated by 2 giant ones. I just added these for some extra detail to spice up those solid gray walls. Other panels have dark orange rust and green algae growing on them, since this area is rather old and slowly corroding as time wears it down. The 2 silos sit next to each other on one side of the plateau, and because they're so tall, I built a catwalk that runs by them so maintenance workers can monitor and operate the power generating process. I had so much fun building this little section with all of its yellow support beams, walkways, and most importantly, guardrails. We can't have any workplace incidents on our hands, unless of course it's Ted breaking the official forklift obstacle course challenge record again. What a goat. These trans purple pillars go inside the silos and are responsible for the generation of electricity. 4 large dark orange pipes are for filling or, in case of emergencies, draining the silos. That wraps up this area. Now I can turn my attention to the other half of the plateau. There isn't enough space for more silos, and I need enough space for people and small vehicles to operate, but I didn't want to leave it completely empty. So I tiled it off and will add a couple of massive transformers. Sorry, not these. I built this little guy way back during the Battle of Jabim series I did on the channel, and I think it works great as a transformer, so I built a second one to populate the open area. This was a surprisingly easy build process. I've been procrastinating it for months with the excuse of needing more tile, but I really just don't want to deal with laying out the silos and trying to get those in the catwalk all lined up just right. It scooted back into place with only a couple of pillars breaking, and now I can attach it to its brother Plateau. After I realized, of course, it was backwards and the whole thing needed to be rotated. The power complex is looking much more ready for its imminent destruction now. However, I'm not very happy with where the silo numbers ended up. I had to place the silos in a way that the 11 is mostly covered by the catwalk frame in order to have the giant hole facing the right direction. It doesn't make a ton of sense to number these silos in big white numbers, then have them mostly obscured. So the only other option is to move them to the side facing the rest of the city. But that's future Ethan's problem. Let's talk power armor. While the Quadranid alien invasion and occupation of Moenia Prime came as a surprise to humanity, the HADF wasn't taken completely unawares. They'd been in communication with Lantern Industries for a number of years before it was hijacked by the Quadranids, and were aware of some of the prototype technology being developed. In particular, the Cerberus robot, which, if you will remember, had been shipped off to the capital pre-alien occupation and was used to create the HADF RCS-3. This was a rather dark project, and I'm not talking about lighting, so it was short-lived, and the engineers quickly turned their attention to developing suits of power armor that could hold an actual human. Built to provide extra armor, speed, and stamina for certain soldiers on the battlefield, they were a costly and time-consuming endeavor, so only a few batches have been finished so far. But after passing QC testing, the majority were quickly shipped off to Moenia Prime and have just arrived in the city and are about to receive their baptism by fire. Encased in new power armor, a squad of HADF soldiers stomps across the base headed for the exit. Nicknamed golems by the other grunts, these men have spent the last 3 days training in their armor, familiarizing themselves with the feeling of being practically invincible. But just as they're about to leave, alarms blare and a cacophony of noise erupts from the neighboring plateau. A massive heavy-class mech is lumbering through the power complex, leaving a trail of destruction as it heads for the massive hydroelectric silos responsible for powering almost a quarter of the city, including the HADF's main base. No tanks are nearby at the moment, creating an opening for this behemoth to strike a major blow to humanity. Without hesitation, the squad of golems spun around and charged across the bridge to engage the rampaging mech. Stern warnings ordered the squad to show restraint, not put themselves in unnecessary danger, and to only engage the mech as a distraction until backup arrived. The team split up and dove for cover as the massive siege cannons turned in their direction, firing a blast. The entire plateau groaned and shuddered under the impact, forcing the mech and golems to crouch, trying to hold their balance. Before the mech could fire again, the blocker unit charged out, smashing his shield into the ground. As the minigun unit charged out and took cover behind the wall, proceeding to unleash a torrent of suppressive fire that forced the mech to shield its cockpit by turning to the side. The third soldier leapt out from cover, darting around the legs, shooting the mech, who began stomping forward, trying to crush the golem. But with only a few days training under their belts, the soldiers were still trying to adjust to moving such massive suits, causing their coordination to be a little off, and suddenly the attacking mech lashed out a foot, kicking a fallen support beam that flew through the air towards the third soldier, who leapt aside but staggered to the ground, unable to stay on his feet. Then the mech pounced, crushing the suit under a massive foot. Just then a loud blast was heard and something tore over the golem's head, smashing into the shoulder of the mech, sending it crashing backwards into a silo. Water gushed from the gaping hole as the mech fell through it, washing across the ground as the soldiers pulled their downed comrade back to the safety of the base. An anti-mech fire team rushes by to finish the fallen attacker as the soldiers turned and waved at the Cuspis 2 across the way that had just arrived and fired on the mech, saving them. Unfortunately, the soldier's legs were lost as the suit was crushed, but it did its job as he survived to tell the tale. HADF Command was very impressed with the squad's ability to engage the mech and saw so many potential applications for this new technology. Suddenly, a rocket launcher or tank wasn't needed to combat a mech. But the Quadranids saw this battle as well, and the effectiveness of small combat suits with an organic pilot, logging this away as they continued planning their final move in the war for Moenia Prime. That's a wrap for this video. I hope you enjoyed the lore update, and I will catch you in the next one, but until then, happy building.